Have you ever noticed the way a woman's guard drops when she feels safe with you? Not in some dramatic moment, just a quiet shift in how she moves through space when you're near. There's a particular kind of touch that reveals more than words ever could. And if she's letting you into these spaces, you're not hoping anymore. You've already won. Here's what most men don't realize. The signals women send aren't always loud. They're not always obvious, but they're deeply intentional. And by the time a woman is letting you touch certain places, her decision is already made. Not about whether you're attractive, about whether you're safe, whether you're steady, whether she can let her walls down without regretting it later. That's a different game entirely. And if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, or beyond, you've likely started to notice something. The things that mattered when you were younger don't carry the same weight anymore, and the things that matter now are harder to fake. In this conversation, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific places a woman will let you touch when she's already decided you're worth her trust. Not because she's being strategic, but because her nervous system has relaxed around you. And that relaxation doesn't lie. By the end, you'll understand what's actually happening beneath the surface, and you'll stop second-guessing yourself when the signs are right in front of you. If this topic resonates with you, comment yes. If it doesn't, comment no. I read every comment, and I adjust what I create based on what you tell me. Before we go further, if you find value in these conversations, consider subscribing. It helps me reach more men who are looking for grounded perspectives instead of hype. And turn on notifications if you want to be part of this community. I don't post every day, but when I do, it's with intention. All right, let's talk about what's really happening when a woman lets you into her space. The first place is her lower back. Not in passing, not accidentally, but when she lets your hand rest there as you walk together, or when you're standing close and she doesn't pull away. This is one of the most underrated signals in modern dating, and here's why it matters. The lower back is vulnerable. It's a part of the body that requires trust to let someone touch without tension. According to research highlighted by Psychology Today, the lower back is linked to the parasympathetic nervous system, which governs rest and safety. When a woman allows sustained touch there, her body is telling you she feels calm, not threatened, not on alert, calm. I'll give you a real-life example. You're walking out of a restaurant together. You place your hand gently on her lower back as you guide her through the door. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't step away. In fact, she might lean into it just slightly. That's not politeness. That's permission. And it's one of the clearest green lights you'll get without a single word being spoken. Most men miss this because they're waiting for something more obvious, but this is the foundation. If she's letting you touch her lower back comfortably, repeatedly in different contexts, you're not in the friend zone, you're in the trust zone, and that's where everything else begins. The second place is her hair. Specifically when she lets you brush it out of her face, tuck it behind her ear, or run your fingers through it without pulling back. This one is deeply intimate, more than most men realize. A study published by the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that hair touch is one of the most emotionally charged forms of non-sexual physical contact. It signals comfort, affection, and emotional closeness. Here's why. Hair is personal. It's tied to identity, femininity, and how a woman sees herself. When she lets you touch it, she's letting you into a space most people don't get access to. Not her coworkers, not her acquaintances, and often not even her friends. Let me paint a picture. You're sitting together, talking. A strand of hair falls across her face. You reach over, gently, and move it aside. She doesn't freeze. She doesn't laugh it off nervously. She just looks at you, maybe smiles softly. That moment is everything. Because in that second, her brain made a calculation, and it decided you were safe, that you weren't going to take more than she was ready to give. This is more common than you think, by the way, especially with women in their 40s and beyond. They've been through enough to know what feels right and what doesn't, and when they let you in, they're not confused about it. Still with me? Comment 1 if this already makes sense. The third place is her neck, and I'm not talking about anything aggressive or overly forward. I'm talking about when she lets you rest your hand there, or when you're close and she tilts her head slightly, exposing that space without hesitation. This is a primal signal. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body. In evolutionary terms, exposing your neck to someone is an act of submission, not in a demeaning way, but in a way that says, "I trust you not to hurt me." Research from the University of Oxford on nonverbal communication found that neck exposure in social and romantic contexts is strongly correlated with feelings of safety and attraction. When a woman leans her head to one side while you're talking, or when you let her touch the side of her neck when you're close, her body is speaking a language older than words. Here's how this shows up in real life. You're standing near each other, maybe at a bar, maybe in a quiet moment at her place. You reach up gently and rest your hand along the side of her neck, your thumb near her jawline. She doesn't flinch, she doesn't tense. In fact, she might close her eyes for half a second. That response isn't theatrical, it's automatic. Her nervous system just told you everything you need to know. She feels safe. And when a woman feels safe, the walls come down fast. This is something men in their later years often understand better than younger guys, because you're not rushing, you're not performing, you're just present. And that presence is what makes the difference. The fourth place women notice is how you move through space. Not how fast, not how confidently in the loud sense, but whether your body looks like it belongs to you. This is something most men never think about, but women pick up on it immediately. According to research published in the journal Evolution in Human Behavior, body language that signals self-possession, meaning movement that's relaxed, unhurried, and grounded, is one of the strongest nonverbal attractors across cultures and age groups. It's not about being tall or fit or perfectly postured. It's about whether you look comfortable in your own skin. Here's how this shows up in practice. You walk into a coffee shop or a restaurant or someone's home. You're not rushing. You're not scanning the room anxiously. You're not fidgeting with your phone or your keys or adjusting your clothes. You just move, calmly, deliberately, like you've been in 100 rooms like this and none of them intimidated you. That ease is what she's noticing, not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. Younger men move like they're auditioning, like every room is a test, every interaction is a chance to prove something. But you're not doing that anymore. You've been to enough places, met enough people, lived through enough situations that you don't need to perform your way through a room. You just exist in it. And that shift is palpable. Women describe this quality in different ways. They'll say things like, "He just seemed so grounded," or "There was something calm about him." They're not talking about your words, they're talking about your presence. And presence isn't something you can fake, it's something you earn by living long enough to stop caring about things that don't matter. This is especially true for women in their 30s and beyond. They've spent years around men who are still trying to be seen, and when they meet a man who doesn't need that, who's just there, solidly, without apology, it stands out. Not in a flashy way, in a foundational way. The fifth thing women notice is how you handle disruption. Not big dramatic crises, but small, unexpected moments when things don't go according to plan. This is one of the most revealing tests of character, and it happens in the first few minutes of meeting someone. Research from the American Psychological Association on stress response and interpersonal attraction found that people assess emotional regulation primarily through observing reactions to minor inconveniences, not major events. Because minor inconveniences happen constantly, and how you handle them tells her how you'll handle everything else. Let me give you a scenario. You're meeting someone for coffee. You get there and the place is closed, or there's no seating, or they got your order wrong. A younger man might get visibly frustrated. He might apologize excessively, trying to control her perception of the situation. He might make a joke that lands awkwardly because he's uncomfortable. But you don't do any of that. You just pivot. You say something like, "No problem, there's another place down the street," or "Let's just take it to go." No big reaction, no need to make it mean something about you, because you've been through enough to know that most things aren't actually problems. They're just moments. And she's watching that. She's watching how much energy you assign to something that doesn't deserve it. And when she sees that you don't, that you just adapt and keep moving, she feels something shift. Because it tells her that being around you won't be exhausting, that you're not going to turn every hiccup into a drama, that you've developed the capacity to let things roll off without losing your center. That's a form of maturity that you can't shortcut. You have to live your way into it, and women in their 30s, 40s, and beyond recognize it instantly. Because they've been with men who couldn't do that, men who needed everything to be perfect or they'd fall apart, and they're done with that. Quick check-in. Does this match what you've noticed in your own life? Comment yes or not really. Now here's what ties all of this together. None of these things are about trying harder. They're about having already lived. The comfort with silence, the quality of your attention, the way you speak about others, the way you move through space, the way you handle disruption. These are the signals women are picking up on in the first few minutes of meeting you. And if you're embodying even half of these, you're already ahead. You're just not looking for the right signs, because the signs aren't loud anymore. They're quiet. They're a look that lingers, a conversation that feels easy, a moment where she realizes she's been talking to you for an hour and didn't notice the time. Those are the signs, and they matter more than the obvious ones ever did. So stop measuring yourself by the standards of a younger man. You're not him anymore, and that's not a loss. That's the whole point. What's one thing you've learned about yourself with age? I'd genuinely like to hear. Drop it in the comments. I read every one, and they help me understand what's landing and what needs to be said next. If this conversation resonated with you, consider subscribing, not because I need the numbers, but because if you found clarity here, there's more where this came from. And if you want to be part of a community that values substance over hype, you're already in the right place. Share your thoughts below. I'm listening. See you in the next conversation.